I have sold over $1 million of courses in just 1 month. I did not want a lifestyle business. When I hit months like $500,000, most people would probably cheer. I was like, this sucks. If I had to do it all over again, I would have. You could quickly make, no joke, $4 million in profit. Should have kept doing it. $4 million is nice money.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We are here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name's John Ainsworth and today's guest is Neil Patel. He is the co-founder of incredible marketing software that you might know, such as Crazy Egg, Kissmetrics, and HelloBar. Entrepreneur magazine called him the #1 entrepreneur in the world and said that he created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. Forbes says he is one of the top 10 marketers. He was recognized as a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30 by President Obama and a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 35 by the United Nations. He is also a New York Times best-selling author and has over 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Plus, he has sold in his time millions and millions of dollars worth of courses. Now, today, we are going to be talking about course businesses, whether they are still a good business, what kind of things you can do to make them better. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's funny hearing my bio. On a quick note on the entrepreneur side, I think they called me a top 100 entrepreneur. I couldn't exactly hear what you said if I was the #1 entrepreneur, but it was the top 100. I just felt like I'm nowhere near the best entrepreneur. And that was only during 1 year. And I think they're looking for startups or things like that. There's way better entrepreneurs than me. But it's interesting hearing my bio because it's like, you're rattling down how many YouTube subscribers I have and things like that. And I was like, I'm like, I know I have more than 1 million, but I don't even check my own stats.
So talk to us about course businesses, because you used to sell courses and very successfully, right? You sold millions and millions of dollars worth of courses. And you don't.
It depends what you consider successfully. But yes, I did sell millions of dollars worth of courses. Actually, I have sold over $1 million of courses in just 1 month. I was about to say I've never. I'm like, actually, there's one time I hit over $1 million in a month. Sold courses. I think the last time I sold courses was maybe, if I had to realistically guess, because NP Digital, my ad agency, this will be our 8th year. So I know I wasn't selling courses while I was doing that. So my guess would be maybe 9-10 years ago. That was when like the webinar funnels were hot and people were like, oh, ClickFunnels wasn't even out at that time. Eventually they came out when I was selling courses at least, but eventually they came out with a product. The webinar funnel was doing extremely well for people. And I would say my average course revenue was a few $100,000 to $500,000 a month on a normal month. And I was seeing a trend in which my revenue was declining over time unless I kept creating new courses, updating it. And I just felt that this wasn't for me, but it's not a bad business. One of my buddies, John, is running a company called Kajabi. So you're right, a lot of people are doing courses and stuff. And I know people are really successful on it. And people still buy them. For example, my wife bought a course from, I think, like taking care of babies. And it was a course on how to get your kids to sleep throughout the whole night. It was a little while ago, but nonetheless, people still buy them. And for my wife, it was a lifesaver, right? She's so happy she bought that course because we would get full night, worth of sleep. I would have paid thousands or tens of thousands for that one, but I don't know what it cost, but it wasn't anywhere near that. I don't even think it was like maybe $100 max, I'm guessing.
So you saw that the revenue was declining, or that no, you had to keep making new courses for it to kind of make sense.
The revenue was declining.
Okay.
To keep the revenue to grow, I would have to do things like keep creating new courses or run ads. We were running ads for a bit, but most of the revenue was organic, so non-advertising related. I had an audience and a blog for many, many years, so that helped kickstart things. But what I would tell people, being quite frank, courses aren't a bad lifestyle business. You can make really good money doing them. I did not want a lifestyle business. When I hit months like $500,000, most people would probably cheer. I was like, this sucks. I did not want a business that generates $500,000 a year. That's why I got out of the course business. Should most people follow that? No, that was just me not wanting $500,000 in revenue and feeling like if my best month ever was $1 million, this, for me, it was a small market. Where I should have gone and I didn't go is have some sort of course that sold into like a mastermind group or something like that and had my agency. I could have had both worlds, and I stopped one to focus on the ad agency, which is where I make the majority of my revenue. But I should have, I know people who have like 100 people paying $50,000 a year. Doesn't cost more than $1 million to throw, call it 3 events a year. You could quickly make, no joke, 4 million in profit. Should have kept doing it. $4 million is nice money.
So if somebody does want a lifestyle business, they do like having their course business, it's going well for them, but they'd like to grow their revenue, they want to do better. What's any options that you think make sense for people to add on to have on top of those courses?
Yeah. So you need to think about what market you're in. Okay. So I'm going to go back to taking care of babies, because taking care of, I think her name is Kara. So she uses, the pun taking care of instead of care of. When you think about her, what products can you use to help babies go sleep better? Is it a sound machine? Is it a crib that rocks them to sleep? Right? Is it a certain blanket that just has a perfect body temperature for babies so they're more likely to go to sleep? Is it a sock that they put on their foot? I think there's a product called the Owlet that monitors their oxygen levels and their heartbeat so you know they're safe, right? Because first-time parents want all that stuff. Second, third-time parents are like, I don't need any of those. I'll just put them to sleep. But these are all products that you can sell. And the market for selling products and services, in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, probably most, if I had to guess, is much bigger than the course market. Think of a course as, Ryan Dice used to talk about tripwires back in the day. He taught me about tripwires, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years ago. And he would talk about tripwires, and you get people in with something cheap, and then you upsell them on something that's more expensive, right? And that model works really well. But why do you have to keep selling them on more and more courses? Yes, courses make good money, but you could start selling people on mastermind groups. Doesn't work for things like babies and sleep, but it works for things like marketing. If you have a marketing course, you sell them on a mastermind for marketing. But it's a lot of things like that I think would do well.
Yeah, one of the things, so we've got a lot of people in the audience who are selling courses on music, some kind of hobby thing, maybe sewing, maybe learning a language. That's very common. A lot of stuff that is not absolutely essential. And a lot of people think that people just aren't going to spend a lot more money on that thing than the $100, $300, whatever they'll spend on the course. And we have found from a lot of testing that that's very definitely not true. A lot of these people are obsessed with their hobby and will spend a lot of money on it. So, for example, we have someone in the musical space who has recently selling courses for like, $100, $200, $300, selling membership for $30, $40 a month, and launched a $10,000 a year coaching program. And the difference there is massive in terms of the amount of money that any one person is spending. So a lot of people look at it and they, well, who in this audience is going to buy? Well, a proportion, a percentage of those people are going to very happy to spend $10,000 a year to get more personalized coaching. So that's one that works there. And Masterminds probably doesn't work in the banjo playing or the bass playing kind of space, but one-to-one coaching definitely does.
Yes.
And I think that's fascinating to kind of see. Can you talk to that at all in terms of just, I find that a lot of people in my audience struggle to get their head around that idea as a kind of starting point.
Yeah. And it's tough. You got to figure out what the demand is that people want from you, and that'll give you ideas. But it could be anything. You were talking about banjo. I know you're not talking about music. You're just using a reference. Let's talk about Hear and Play. I don't know if it still exists. There was a guy that I've known for a long time. I haven't talked to him in many years, named Jermaine Griggs. Okay. He had a course called Hear and Play. I think it was hearandplay.com or something like that, which teaches you how to play the piano by listening. He could have started selling pianos and be an affiliate for it. And then I believed he may have had more courses like on guitars and other stuff, but you can sell the products, picks, right, for guitar, strings, right? These are all things that can help you generate more revenue. And the best way to figure them out is you sell your course, but you talk to your customers to figure out what else they need help with that's related to your course. And you may not even need to talk to them. They may just keep coming to you with problems or seeking advice. And you may be able to solve these problems when they're seeking advice with products or services that you could sell. It could be a bigger mastermind. It could just be more coaching, whatever it may be. It's worth looking into because that is a quick way of making more revenue. But I'll share some numbers here. Remember I said the best month I ever had was $1 million and average 2 to 500, somewhere in that range. I honestly don't really know what it is. I know it's more than 200, but I know we didn't hit 500 every single month. So that's why I give you the range. And when I look at the course related stuff, it's a great business, but it was hard to scale more than that, for me at least. Okay, just selling courses. When I launched my agency, the first year of revenue was $5 million. So call it around 400 grand a month. The profits suck compared to selling a course, though. The second year, though, I did 18 million in revenue.
Right.
The third year, I know it was in the 30s. I don't know the exact number because it was a while ago, but I know it was not 40 million bucks. If I had a guess, I think 36, but I know it was not 30 million because it was more than that. And I know it wasn't 40 million because it was less than that, but it was somewhere in that band. Okay. And it continued to scale and double over time. And when I say double over time, the next year, I think we doubled or 90% or something, decent growth like that. And it kept compounding from there. And then when we tucked in our software companies, the growth even increased more, but then it's skewed because is it software revenue? Is it consulting revenue, right? Right now, I'm just talking about consulting revenue. You tie in the software, we had even more growth because you're adding in other business units that I own and I was just merging them together, which creates artificial growth, right? But what I'm getting at here is you can scale businesses to being much larger as long as you pick a big TAM. TAM stands for total addressable market. What's the market you're going after, and just make sure it's a massive one.
What are some of the downsides to this approach? Because, you didn't want a lifestyle business. You wanted something much bigger. You wanted to grow something kind of more financially successful. What's any of the downsides to running that kind of business that you see?
High risk, very expensive. Big reward, but most people don't succeed. And that's why I recommend people who are selling courses stay in the course business, but add in other products and services over time. One of the main reasons is it makes you more money, but another big reason is we yet don't know how the course business is going to be commoditized by AI. Some people believe AI is just going to wipe it all out. I don't think that's the case. Do I think it's going to have an impact on revenue on courses? Definitely. I do. But does it mean that people will go from making $500,000 a month to 50 grand? Not necessarily. They may still make 300 grand. I don't know yet. Time will tell. And some people in this new world will create courses on things like AI and how to leverage them and make money, hundreds and thousands a month, when they were making zero before, right? So what I'm getting at is I still think there's possibilities and opportunities.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen is that there is generally a decline. If you just keep doing the same things in the course space as you were doing 2-3 years ago, there's a decline. It was quite level, or it was totally fine for a while, and then that's starting to decline. And it could be that there's more competition. It could be because of AI. It could be because there's more stuff that's available for free. I don't know exactly, probably maybe a combination, but I don't know what percentage from each. But one of the things that I've seen is that people are now starting to come out with some different and better products because they're kind of forced to, almost. Before it was like I could just keep doing the same thing, right? And it's totally fine. I love this. This is great. And now it's like, okay, what if I add in group coaching? What if I add in one-to-one coaching? What if I add in an AI offer? So we've got someone coming on the podcast in a few weeks who she had a course business that she was doing great with, and then she found it was starting to decline and she was unhappy with the results from it. And some of her friends were launching AI offerings to their same audience. She thought she'd give that a try. She worked on it. She used a webinar funnel, which we talked about briefly before the show. She used Russell Brunson's system. She spent ages making sure the AI product was great. And she had her biggest launch ever by 3x. So
Nice.
She's going to come on and kind of talk about, what did she build? How did it work? Did it work for most people's course audience, or is it only because of what she's in? She's in the language learning space. But I think this is something that course creators might be a bit uncomfortable with. They're just like, I just like making my courses. This is great. And it's like, well, you know what? That's okay. But over time, markets shift.
Yes.
So you've got to be ready to change. Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're not willing to adapt, you're going to eventually die. market conditions change, the ones who adapt have opportunities to not just continually succeed, but they can grow and make even more. The ones who don't will start seeing their revenue not just plateau, but decline. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. You could be like, I still make 100 grand a month and I live in the Philippines or Vietnam or one of these countries or some island and it costs me $2,000 a month. Well, in that case, every month, excluding taxes, if you're making, your costs are 2,000 and you're making 100,000, you can you're saving roughly 49 months in the bank account, assuming there was no taxes. We all know there is. But you look up 49 months, you go for a year, right? It's like, all right, I just stacked a little bit less than 600 months that I can live for just earnings in 1 year. I can live a really chill life. And if that's your goal, then you don't need to adapt. But if your goal is to keep thriving, making more, maybe keeping up with the Joneses, you want a bigger home or a car, or you're trying to do more, you got no choice but to adapt. And what I find with most people who are in the course business, they make the course, they don't adapt, their income starts going down, life was good, they travel a lot, and then they started getting bored and they don't know what to do. So then they go back to focusing on their course, making it a lot better and expanding from there. But it usually takes people to do whatever they want in life and then realize that they're getting bored and they actually enjoy working.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I see a lot of people who, they read the 4-Hour Work Week and they're like, I want to have this lifestyle where I can do whatever it is that I want. And they were super driven to get that. And so they worked really, really hard in order to build up their ideal lifestyle. And then they got it. And they're like, oh, my life is amazing. I now no longer have any drive because they didn't have, and the thing that was driving them was to get to that point. And then they didn't have something else to drive them to kind of carry on working. And I see people go through quite a large bit of existential angst when they get to that stage because they feel like they should be working on their business, but they just have no particular reason to because their life is dope, and they're totally fine.
I'm with you. And, and some people in the course business look at things and they'll be like, look at Alex Hormozy. He just made $100 million selling a book. Wow, I could do that too. It's very hard to do that in the course world.
Yeah. What's your drive? Why is $500,000 a month or something like that not enough for you? Is there certain financial reasons for it, or is it no, I could just do something more exciting? Or what was the thing that drove you to move on from that?
My problem is I'm never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So at least from a financial and a business standpoint, you make some money, happy for a day, and like, why I'm not making double? You make double, well, why am I not making double that? And it's just never ending. It's addictive drug that I wish I could get off the hamster wheel, but for some reason I'm not able to.
Is that something that you would recommend people against striving to have that mindset in the first place? Like if they don't have that feeling at the moment, does it? Because it sounds like maybe it comes with some downsides in terms of the dissatisfaction.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I would push people towards it, but I wouldn't push people away from it. I look at life and entrepreneurship as people should do what they naturally like, because if they just go with the flow with how their personality is, and they embrace it and pick a type of course business or a business that works with their personality type, they tend to be happier and more content in life. But let's say if my children, I have 2 kids, let's say if my children don't have them, like, I want to make some money, but I don't care to make 5 million, 10 million a year. I'm happy with 1 million a year. And I want to spend time raising my kids, being a more involved parent, go to their, basketball games or their cheerleading practice or whatever it is. Good for them. Who says making more money is better than experiences or better than spending time with your family? And on the flip side, I've seen people say spending time with your kids is better than making money, so you shouldn't focus too much on making money. And those people are miserable spending time with their kids. And for them, I would tell them you should focus on making more money because you'd be happier, and your kids don't want to hang out with you when you're just mopey and miserable.
So going back into your recommendation of what it is that people could do, one of the things that you said was that you need to look at what it is that's appropriate for your market. And maybe people are coming to you and saying, this is the thing that I'd love you to make. If the audience aren't doing that, would you recommend surveys? Would you recommend people get on a phone call and talk to their customers about it? Like, what's the best way for someone to start to try and figure this out? Like, what should they have as an offer?
I wouldn't start with surveys. I would first start by talking to people and just because what people fill out in a random survey, sometimes it could be helpful, a lot of times it won't. And the reason I say that is if you ask people if they're willing to buy something based on a survey, a lot of people will say yes, but then when you ask them to whip out a credit card, it's a very different thing. Same goes when you talk with people. But when you talk with people at the early days, you'll truly figure out their pain points. They may not understand what the solution is or what they're looking for, but they may understand the problem, and you may have a better solution than they're even thinking. And then you can talk to more people, validate, and then start running surveys, and then start testing things out and see if people are willing to pay for them. But take it a slow, patient route instead of just being like, I need another product to upsell. Let me just crank something out. It's a bad way to run things.
When you're starting out, so let's say someone takes your advice and they're like, right, I'm going to start out, like Neil says, with these Zoom calls or phone calls or whatever it is with people to kind of get that more qualitative feedback. Would you go in there with suggested ideas of products that you're thinking about, or just go and talk to people about their pain points and what they're after and kind of where they're trying to get started from?
On the first call, especially if you're just starting out, I would just talk to people and not have suggested products. You may have them in your mind, but I wouldn't pitch them to people. I would truly understand what people's issues and pain points are and do many calls with different people to figure out the pain points in your industry to help you better understand what's the ideal product or service to sell.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've always found is that most people don't seem to want to go and do the qualitative research first. They would rather do the survey because it's kind of a little bit less uncomfortable and it's a little bit more.
No, it's usually because it's
marketing.
easier and you don't have to do as much work. That's why most people prefer it.
Mm.
I've dealt with this with so many course creators in the past, right? And I was speaking at Kajabi's event years and years ago, and I was talking to a few people, and they're like, "Yeah, what else can I sell?" Like, "Oh, maybe I'll just run a survey. We'll figure it out over time if I get enough inquiries for something specific." And when I was telling people, like, "Why don't you pick up the phone and talk to your customers?" Most people wouldn't do it.
Mm.
They said they would, but they really didn't want to spend the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're not really, it's not really awkward or making them nervous. Because you have to remember, people bought their course. They're looked upon as an expert. They're looked at from a authoritative viewpoint, right? They're the ones who people are looking up to. Their issues, a lot of them just don't want to do it.
Mm. Just
People have the mentality in the course world that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they need to have a new mentality in which if you just keep the status quo, things will decline.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So someone's got started. Let's say that they're listening to the advice, right? They've set up some calls. They've set up a Calendly link or something. They're setting up some Zoom calls with their customers. They're talking to them about the problems. At what point do you think it does start to make sense to come up with some ideas of actual products? Are you like waiting to just hear the same bit of feedback multiple times from people? Is there a certain number of conversations you suggest to people? Like what's kind of a way of thinking about that?
Yeah, I would try to talk to at least 20 or 30 people. Minimum 20. You can keep going after, even 50, but I think 20 to 30 people will give you some ideas.
Great. So you've done that. You've talked to 20 or 30 people. You've got some ideas of things that you think might work as a product in your market that's much more expensive than the courses you're currently selling.
And then you go back to talking to those 20, 30 people and get their feedback.
Okay, so you go back to the same people and you go, right, I've got this idea. Can you let me know if I'm onto a winner here or something like that? Or you got like specific kinds of questions you'd be asking about it?
You would go down with their problems and then you would describe potential solutions, not just one solution, potential solutions, and see what clicks for people. And then that will give you a better understanding of what you should focus on. Then go run surveys and then go try to do a test and sell it.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we got set up the phone calls, do 20 or 30 of them, ask just broad open-ended questions, find out about the pain points, the difficulties, what kinds of things people want help with. Have they got ideas of what they might like? Record it all, make notes, come up with ideas of like, okay, here's 3, 4, 5 different options. Go back to the same people on phone calls, describe those options, get their feedback. Then we've got somewhere further along, we're going to do a survey out to the whole audience, find out which of these look like they might be worth making. Choose one of them.
You would have refined it before you do the survey. So then you may have a few of them because you may take parts of one idea and put it into another one, right? You're going to get refinement. And then when you run the survey, it should help really make things clear on which direction you should go. And then you should launch a test. When I say launch a test, try to generate the revenue first before you even create the product or service. And if people are willing to pay for it, then you know to go and create it. Because when I say collect the revenue first, you can always just refund people.
I think a lot of people get uncomfortable about that. Or maybe it's not uncomfortable, I don't know, but like they're like, oh no, I've got to make the product before I can ever do this. And it's like, no, sell it first, because what if nobody buys it? Then
That's
you
right.
learned that and you never had to spend 6 months building it, you know?
Like the example I would have done is when I say collect the revenue, I usually don't collect that actual revenue. I would have the credit card page, have them go through it, and then as people are trying to buy, like actually buy and filling out their information and clicking the purchase button, I now know I have a potential buyer, right? And I would just let them know that, hey, it's not ready yet. We haven't charged your card or collected any of the information yet. We just wanted to see if this would really appeal. Because it did, enough people, we will actually go and create it. And because you took this out, took your time to actually buy, when we do release it, we'll offer you a better deal or a discount or something for your inconvenience.
Nice. Okay.
Or give them a gift card right then and there to Amazon or something. So then that way, they're not getting hurt and you're not ruining your brand.
Perfect. I was chatting with someone yesterday. He's been doing this for a while. He's been running this test with a product that he's thinking of selling, seeing how many people will go through to the checkout page, how many people will go buy, but also he's got it set up so it randomly assigns a price between two parameters, $29 up to whatever it was, $200 for the same thing, to see what's the conversion rate at each of those different prices. So that he's slightly overly complicated. He's a programmer. He likes to do this kind of thing. But I thought that's such a fascinating test.
Oh. But I don't think it's more complicated than that. And that's what I would start off with right now if someone's listening and they're a course creator, because this will help you expand your revenue over time. This will make it where you can spend more money on ads because you're having other backend products that make more money. And this is the true way to grow.
Yeah, I had Perry Marshall came on the show and he was talking about the cappuccino machine model. Have you heard him talk about that? It's like his idea is basically you go to Starbucks, everyone goes to Starbucks and they'll spend $5 or $10, whatever it is, on a coffee. But some people will want to buy the coffee machine that Starbucks uses and they'll spend $2,000 or $3,000 on it. And it's not a high proportion of the customers, but some of them will. So you might as well sell them the expensive thing as well as having the cheap thing as well.
Yes.
And I think it's amazing in terms of a way of like growing revenue without even having to grow your audience.
I totally agree with that.
Is there anything else that you see with course creators where they're just missing opportunities, missing like approaches they could be doing?
No, that's the main thing. Because I've known so many course creators. Most of them over time have gone out of it because it's a great stepping stone into figuring out what bigger business you can end up getting into. And like I said earlier, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have had some sort of, maybe not course, but maybe coaching or something combined with what I'm doing, because it just adds more revenue and profit and allows you to grow faster.
Perfect. Amazing. Neil, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with everybody. Hopefully everybody takes this on board and is going to give us feedback that they've researched their product and launching it in a few months' time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
If people want to go check you out, where's the best place someone should go?
NP Digital, or my social handles are all Neil Patel.
So Neil Patel on socials or NP Digital. Amazing. Neil, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate your time. And we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.